At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast is now on YouTube. Go on YouTube and search Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast and click that subscribe button to never miss an episode. Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am one of your hosts this week, Wrestling Chris G, and on the other line with me is my electric compadre. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. That's good. It's a little peek behind the curtain. We finally found a workaround for this damn black and white, since they don't have it on Pokemon.com anymore.
Well, they do. It just depends on if you ask really nice, and they'll have random episodes.
Yeah, we found that out during the last episode. But yeah, just random episode. Like, they're like, okay, we'll take these down, but if someone has a link to this, we'll let them watch it.
Yeah, we won't punish them.
So, all right, but we are here and we are on another episode of Black and White, and today's episode is called Emolga the Irresistible, episode 683, or translated from Japanese, Beware Cute Faces, Paralyzing Emonga. And
fair enough.
Yeah, for real. This episode premiered in Japan March 24th, 2011, and here in the States July 16th, 2011. So just a couple months apart. And yeah, I don't really have much to really talk about when it comes to kind of chit-chatting. We peek behind the curtain, we kind of got that done in our last episode, and I can't really pull anything out of thin air for this one unless you got something to talk about, Doug.
No, I mean, you can always tell. I'm sure the listeners can always tell which episode was second or last, whatever the term might be in a recording session, because some episodes you get 20 minutes before we get into the episode. Other episodes, it's like maybe 5 if you're lucky.
But yeah, so I do have another Evolving Skies booster pack, which you will get a code later in this episode. It is a black card. So I do have another. So we're just hitting it out of the park. I'm thinking, because if I'm remembering right, Doug, the last recording session that we did was basically a 2 for 2. And I believe we're getting another 2 for 2 on this run. Now, I don't know how that coordinates with our releasing dates, but if they are back to back to back, we may have a full month of nothing but like good Pokemon packs for once.
Nice.
I know.
Love to see it.
I know. So, all right. But other than that, let's go ahead and jump on into this week's episode. Are you ready, bro?
I definitely am.
All right. So we start this week's episode with a bunch of pet rats. They're coming through and they're on a branch and they're just jumping. and they're jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping, and they're getting a whole bunch of apples out of a tree, and then they jump out of the tree and they're celebrating. They're like, "Yay!" And they're like, "Oh, we're about to eat all of these apples." And then you see Emolga over in the corner, and Emolga is like, "Ooh, those apples look good." And then Pat Rat is celebrating. Emolga kind of jumps out of the tree and lands on the ground. And all three Pat Rats go over and start patting Emolga because Emolga looks like she may be hurt. But then she opens her eyes and gives a nice little wink over to the Pat Rat. And she does the move attract, yeah. So she does attract to all of these Pat Rats, and all the Pat Rats, well, one of the Pat Rats at this point falls in love with her and gives her the apple. And then she does attract again to the other two Pat Rats, and they fall in love with her as well, and they give her all of the apples. And Emolga just runs away, and then attract wears off, and the Pat Rats are like, "Wait a minute, the hell just happened?" And then they look down and they see all their apples are gone. Emolga's sitting behind a rock just eating the apples. And they're like, "Oh, no, 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 no."
I'm a bitch, motherfucker.
I know, for real. And we go straight from that to the theme song. And from the theme song, we go to the title sequence. And Doug, I will go ahead and play the video for you.
So we're sitting up. We have a picnic situation, and Pikachu and Axew are sitting at a table, and Ash, Iris, Silent, and Bianca are sitting at another table, and everybody's just jumping and eating, and Bianca's like, "Oh boy, I'd give that meal 5 stars." And
sorry, is it going too fast?
No, I was just processing. And then Silent's like, "Well, if you thought the meal itself was good, you should wait for dessert." And Bianca's like, "Oh boy, what are we gonna have for dessert?" And, Iris gets up and she's got a whole tray of apples. She's like, "Apples from a tree? Like straight from that's not dessert. That's fruit."
She's like, "Dessert are decoratives that are covered with delicious sweet chocolate." And she's like, I was like, "Not always. I think that's naturals is where it's at." And then you have Oshawott just come out of its Pokeball again. Ash needs to train this damn Oshawott. He can't keep doing this. But Oshawott walks over and takes a bite of the apple and gives a thumbs up, and he's like, "Yep, these apples are good." And
these are apples, all right.
And then she throws one over to Axew, and this is where the episode kind of goes downhill a little bit. Oh. I had to throw that in there. Because the apple bonks Axew.
I don't want to do the show anymore.
The apple bonks Axew straight in the face and starts tumbling down the hill. And Emolga is sitting in a tree and sees Axew chasing the apple, and Emolga jumps out. How is this Emolga staying fit? All these damn apples that it's eating.
Apples.
Yeah, I don't care. You try eating 20 apples in one sitting, Doug.
She glides from tree to tree. That burns off calories.
Not 20 apples worth. But Emolga flies all the way down the hill and picks up the apple, and Axew is right behind her, and Axew's like, "Oh, hi. Can I have my apple back?" Iris is running.
That's my apple.
Iris is running down the hill, and Ash is like, "Oh, who's that Pokemon?" And takes out Dexter, and Dexter's like, "Emolga, the sky squirrel Pokemon." Let's see. Emolga lives in trees and uses his cape like a something and glides membrane and glides straight through the air. And Ash is like, "Wow, that's an Emolga."
Oh shit.
Yeah, all right, Doug, take it from here.
So Emoga's like, oh, I wasn't expecting company, but oh my god, look at those apples. And she kind of goes in her own head and she's like, well, if I give Axu this apple, they're going to be so grateful. They're just going to give me that whole tray of apples, and I'll have all the apples, and I can be like Gollum with the apples. And then she like gets kind of glassy and pixie-eyed, and she hands Axu back the apple, and she's like kind of rubbing its head and patting its back. Say, look, I can cooperate. I can I can get along. I can be cute, and just like she predicted, Iris is like, well, you can have these, and Emolga's like, oh boy, look at all those apples. And then freaking Bianca just comes barreling down, and I mean barreling down the hill. It's like, that's so cute, it's mine. It's so fluffy.
just like from the movie Despicable Me, just it's so fluffy and just loving the mess out of Emolga.
He's like, you're mine. You're going to be mine. That's it. You're going to be mine. And Ash is like, look, I know when a Pokemon doesn't want to come with me, and that Pokemon does not want to come with you. And Iris is like, besides that fact, you have to battle the thing before you can just pick it up and walk away with it.
That's not Ash's technique. Just throwing that out there.
Let's not spoil what happens at the end of the episode. And Bianca's like, well, fine. And she throws out her Pokeball, and she has a Manchino, which I had forgotten about until it came out. And she's like, all right. It used its first move, Double Slap. Moga dodged that, and then she's like, all right, go in for Tickle. And you could just see, like, Emolga, something was building up. Emolga's like, I am not into this battle. I'm not here for this. I just wanted the apples. And we find out that Emolga has
discharge, and it's like a thunder shock for any of the like a Pikachu, and just wham, like
it gets everybody. And Bianca's like, oh, so it's going to be like that. We'll use Attract Manchino, and it uses Attract, but then Emolga, of course, uses Attract, and cancels each other out because it would.
But Oshawott gets it.
Because Oshawott is incapable of staying in its Pokeball, like you say. And Oshawott is basically, I love you. And Ash is like, get back in here. What are you doing? This isn't your fight. And
Emolga is like, I'm not a part of this life. I'm gonna run away. It's not even worth getting these apples. There's so many apple trees out here.
Bianca calls back Manchino, and Oshawott, seeing where this is headed, picks up a couple apples and starts running after. It's like, wait a minute, that Emolga never ate. Y'all interrupted the shit. And let's run, and then obviously Iris has to run after Axu, because then Bianca's standing there like, I can't believe I let it get away. It's so cute. And then Axu
gets some apples because he wants to give it back.
Iris's attention is like, hey, I want to give a couple of these apples to that cute little squirrel thing because y'all made it run away. And Iris basically translates, and she's like, basically said what I said. Oh, actually wants to give Emolga lunch. And
Bianca's like, she's like, fear not, my dear Emolga, I'll take care of you. And Iris is like, oh geez, she's gonna make him run away again. And Iris kind of comforts Axu and was like, let's just hold on tight, Axu. We'll go ahead and find Emolga, and you'll be able to give Emolga these apples as well. Because Axu at this point seems a little defeated. He's like, but I want to give Emolga the apples. I like Emolga. And Bianca starts running and running and running. And then we see Iris just going from tree to tree to tree, just jumping, 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 and they're all chasing Emolga. We finally catch up to Emolga, and Emolga sees 3 apples that are in the tree. Like I said, a bunch of apples in this forest. So why it needs to steal, I don't know. Other than it just wants to be mean and wants to keep everything to itself. But she imagines Iris holding these apples in her hand, and then imagines Bianca going, "You're just a battle away of being mine, and I'm gonna grab you, Emolga."
When did Bianca turn into a pirate?
I know. And then we also get a scary image of Minchino um looking like it wants to attack Emolga, and Emolga is all angry. It takes out all the apples and just starts angry eating. It's like, "Arr." He's like, "I'm so mad, but I'm so hungry. I'm gonna eat all these apples." Arr. Doug.
So, Iris and Axu are swinging, and they're like, "It's not here. It's not here." And Ash and Silent come up on Bianca on the ground. She's like, "This is bullshit." And then Ash, of all people, goes, "Oh, why don't you just pack it in?" Like, fuck you, dude. Like,
Yeah, Bianca sits here and is like, "No, I'm gonna catch this Emolga. Emolga is going to be mine." And she does the most prancy run in this forest. And I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anybody saying that. I couldn't think of any other way. But the way that she runs is just hands out, bolt-legged in this dress and just running down the walkway to get away. Like, you know that she doesn't know how to run. And
hasn't had to run.
and of course Silent has to get in a line about food, and it's like, "I detect a recipe with a fair amount of spice taking shape." And Pikachu is like, another food joke. And then we go straight over to Iris, and Iris is like, "Emolga lives in this forest, so it can't be far away." And then Axu gets bonked in the head by an apple, and they're like, "Wait a minute, what's that?" And then they look up, and Emolga is in the tree, and Axu is like, "Here you go, Emolga," and throws up an apple. And Iris is like, "Axu wants you to have it. He's got a little crush on you." So we find out that Axu is indeed a boy and Emolga is a girl. And Pokemon can have crushes on other Pokemon that are not the same type of Pokemon that they are, which is kind of weird in Pokemon.
Is that weird? Go ahead, defend yourself.
Well, I mean, I guess it's not like super weird, but you can't breed in the Pokemon games unless you have like a Ditto. You can't breed a Pikachu with a different Pokemon unless it's a Ditto, and a Ditto can pretend to be another Pikachu to get an egg. So in the Pokemon world, I mean, and still to this day, you can't do that. I mean, unless I'm playing the game the wrong way. But I mean, somebody tell me, somebody message, and people on Twitter love to message, like, if I get something wrong, or if I get a stat
that
wrong.
never happens.
Oh, but I like it, because I mean it shows that people are listening to our show. So I welcome it, and I love getting those messages, even though I might not message back right away. But I love getting those messages. And Emolga's sitting in the tree, and it's all surprised, and it's thinking of her and Axu being friends, and Iris giving her all the apples in the world, and she's like, "Okay, I could play this game," and goes to eat the apple, and here comes Bianca again, and Bianca's like, "This time for sure." And she throws out her Minchino to use double slap again. And Minchino is just as vicious as she is. And this time double slap hits. and and then Emolga does discharge again, shocks
Volt switch.
Volt Switch, and shocks the mess out of Minchino and jumps on top of Bianca's head and just flies away. And actually was like, not again, and goes and starts running into the tall grass, and so does Iris. Doug, you want to take it from here?
So, Axu is chasing after Emolga, and it catches it, and the weight of Axu, which can't be that much, but at the same time, Emolga can't weigh that much either, and it starts to drag it down. And Iris is chasing after him, and she grabs on. She's like, "I got you!" And she jumps, and they land on a cliff, like a cliff's edge, but it's a very flimsy cliff's edge, and that gives way. So they all go tumbling.
Yes.
They end up deep in the forest, up against a tree, and they're like, "Oh, where the hell are we? And what's that noise?" And
we
just see a bunch of eyes in the distance.
And then we look right behind Iris, and we see a whole bunch of Swobat. Man, this would creep me out.
And we get the who's that Pokemon? We find out that it is
Emolga.
I believe it's Emolga, which would make sense. It is.
And I'm going to pause it here real quick. It is now code time, everybody. It is for the Pokemon trading card game live. Here's your code. It is RKZ6KQX9R7QTQ, everybody. And that is your code for this week. First one to get it, first come, first serve. And let's go ahead and continue this episode. Doug, as you were saying.
So, Iris, Axu, and Emolga are looking around, and we see a bunch of Swovats. I'm trying to differentiate from Wobat.
Yeah, it's the evolved form of Wobat. So these are Swobats.
So they're all doing this sonar move, and it's coming from all directions, and it's just it's super like annoying, and it's just grating. And Emolga is so annoyed that it shoots out discharge, and just everybody gets it. All this Wobat, Iris, Axu, they all catch it. And Olga's like, "That's right, knock that shit off." And they go walking, and Ash and Silent are back at the top of the cave, and it looks like, judging by the damage, it looks like they took a tumble down there.
Yeah, and from here, Bianca runs over with a big ass leaf. Where she got this leaf, I don't know, but she got a big ass leaf, and she's like, "I'm gonna get this damn Emolga, and I'm not gonna stop until I do get this Emolga. So look out, here I come!" And she literally jumps on top of this leaf and rides the leaf down this hill like a sled. I wish
I was gonna say like a sled or a toboggan. How the hell did she get this street smart? Because like she's been established as like a
ditzy,
like a ditzy, like a porcelain princess kind of thing.
I'm gonna use your line. It's a kid show. They had to find a way to get her to the bottom of the hill, so that's what they wrote up for her.
I'll buy it.
So Iris is walking through this forest. It is very dark in this forest and very thick to where there's zero sunlight coming into this forest. So that's why the Swobat live here. So they're walking around. Actually was like, "Oh my gosh, there's some sunlight and there's a lake. Let's go over there." So they go over there to take a nice little rest. And Emolga goes to wash its hands, and actually goes over to the water and is like, "I like water," and just starts splashing the water over on Emolga. Emolga doesn't like it, and Emolga remembers, "I can't be mean to you, because if I'm mean to you, I'm not going to get any any apples. So it starts using its hidden move into the water, and it impresses Emolga. But Emolga originally was using it to kind of take its anger out. It's like, oh, I can't do this, but you know what? I'm gonna use hidden move, and this is gonna take away from what I want to do to you, Axu. But Axu ends up liking it, and he starts clapping. He's like, "Oh, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again," and Iris is like, "Oh, that's hidden power, isn't that awesome?" And
And
sorry, you can go.
Axu is just like such a like with such childlike wonder. He's like, "Please do it again. That was awesome. Please do it." And then this time, Emolga lets 3 shots go, and Axu's like, "This is fucking awesome. It's so cool. Look at this." And then, Emolga kind of starts believing in the hype, and she lets a big one go, and it like engulfs the whole lake. And then that wakes up the Swolbats again. So as they're kind of celebrating because that was some cool shit, all these Swolbat just come up from the dark, and Emolga's like, "I'm gonna have to hit him again." So she just preemptively hits him with an electric move, and
And then
Iris
they run into the forest.
and so pardon me. So they're running, and then Ash, Silent, and Bianca are behind a tree, and they're like, "What was that?" And
They're
Bianca's like, "Oh, I bet it was just discharge again."
yeah, they're looking at a little bit of scruffling going on inside of a bush, and Bianca's like, I bet that's Emolga inside of that bush. Pig Knight, it's your turn. And she throws out her Pokeball, and it's Pig Knight, and she's like, use flamethrower. Does flamethrower, and
Is that the second form of big?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's not the final form yet.
No, and Bianca does flamethrower at this bush, completely fries the bush, and there's a Scolipede on the inside of this bush, and Scolipede just looks over, and Ash is like, "Oh shit! I told you that thing didn't look like an Emolga inside of that bush." And Scolipede is annoyed. It's halfway on fire, and they start running away. Ash and Silent are running properly. Bianca's not running properly, and neither is her Pig Knight. And
well, now come on, now in that Pig Knight's defense, how often do you think that Pig Knight has to run?
that's also true. But I'm guessing in Bianca's world, they're constantly running. like I'm sure Pig Knight's like, oh shit, not again. She's wrong again, and we're about to get fried again.
The healthiest damn Pig Knight in this bitch.
For real, it should be the fastest Pig Knight. But Scolipede is running after him, and then we go over to this cave where Iris is hiding. She's hiding behind a rock inside of a mini cave, and she's like, "We need to lay low for a while." And Axu and Emolga kind of agree, and Emolga is starting to like Axu because Axu is mimicking her, and she's like, "Oh, that's cute. I like you. I like you a lot." And then Doug, we go back to Scolipede.
So Ash, Pikachu, Silent, and Bianca kind of played like I literally put my hands up like the people can see me. Kind of like we're frozen against the tree, and the Scolipede thankfully went by, and then we're standing in front of a tree, and Bianca's like, "What do you reckon that was?" And Silent's like, "Well, you're not on the best track record, considering the last time you were curious about a rustling in a bush, you almost got us ran over."
For real, but she thinks, oh, it's Emolga. This one's Emolga for sure. She sends out her Minccino to use hyper voice,
which we know immediately is not a good decision.
No, because as soon as as soon as she does that, a Galvauchua, the electric spider type Pokemon, flies out of this tree and is so pissed off. It's like, man, I was napping up here, and uses its discharge move and fries the mess out of all three of our heroes, except for Pikachu. Well, Pikachu got it too, but Pikachu's an electric type. It's just like, man, that was
Yeah.
that was lunch. Um,
Yeah, I appreciate the energy and all.
and the spider ends up walking away as they're just fried on the ground, and then we go right back to Iris. Doug.
So they're stuck in a cave, and Iris is like, "Man, these Swobats are stubborn," and they're all getting in formation, and they've got one guy that's kind of the leader, and they're all doing a synchronized sonic attack, and it's coming from three different directions. It's red, blue, and green.
They
And
really made these bats look really annoying as they're doing this screech attack. Like I could imagine just sitting there, just being so annoyed.
And Iris is just like, this shit sucks. It's hurting my ears. So she runs out, and then that's when three of them fire off an attack, and
And we
she
don't
looks
we
at
don't know what that attack is, by the way.
no, and I'll give these subtitles credit up to this point because they usually said, "Oh, hyper beam or not hyper hidden attack released when Emolga was playing in the water," but not this time.
No.
So Iris looks at Emolga and she's like, "Looks like you're gonna have to battle him." And Emolga's like, "All right, bet." So she lets out an attack, and then Iris is like, "I can
I can help you
help."
out.
She throws out her
Excadrill.
Expedrill, and she's like, "I really need you this time." And Expedrill is just still just in its warhead mode, just oh shit.
And Emolga goes straight in to use Attract. And this time they did a good job with this because the bats, the male bats, seem to be attracted to Emolga now, and so is Excadrill. Excadrill's like, oh, I like you, Emolga, and but the
Iris is like, "Oh, this, now you come out."
and all the female Swobats are not affected by the attack, so they're still looking at Emolga like, oh, I'm still gonna get you. So they surround Emolga. Emolga gets annoyed, and then Emolga lets off a discharge. And this is where we see Bianca, Ash, and Silent walking through the forest some more. And then they look off to the side and they see the discharge attack again. And Bianca's like, oh, that must be
Alvani's discharge again.
yeah. And they're like, wait, no, I think that's Emolga. And Bianca's like, wait, what? And then we go back to Emolga. Emolga's frying the mess out of all of the Swobat that are over here, and all the male Swobats are no longer affected by the attract move anymore, and they're all surrounded. So they start using that annoying sonic attack again, and from here Pikachu comes into the mix. Doug
just hits them all with Thunderbolt, and just like anything, anybody's problems can be solved by a man. And they're happy, and then Ash has to pull out Dexter so he can find out what a Swobat is, and basically we find out verbally what we've been finding out just through watching the episode, that Swobat can release various sound waves through their noses, and Ash is like, "All right, Pikachu, take care of this," and everybody's favorite Oshawott pops out and is like, looks over at Emolga and is like, "Don't worry, babe, I got this. Look at my shell." And doesn't get it, gets fried.
yes.
Gets called back, and then all the Swobat are doing the move again.
Round.
And
We find out that the move is called Round.
it's a dumb name for this move.
Yes.
And Cylon's like, oh, this sucks because it's all in a group like this. And Ash is like, I don't care, we gotta focus. And he's like, Pikachu, use Thunderbolt. And he uses Thunderbolt. Emolga jumps in with a hidden power and sends all the Swolbat scampering away. And Emolga's so happy it just does discharge and
Electrifies everybody.
kind of looks around and is like, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have done that. Oh well, I'm cute, and just flies away. And Bianca's like, bah. And she's like, and then we're getting back to the picnic site, and she's like, I can't believe I went through all that and didn't catch it. And Ash kind of rubs some salt in the wound. It's like, well, think about it. You probably would have gotten shocked 2 or 3 more times. And Bianca's like, well, oh well, I'll just forget about it anyway.
At least we can eat some dinner.
And we find out what the dinner is, and it's a plate full of apples. And now Bianca's kind of turned around to apples. She's like, all right. And this is when we see, off in the distance, we see Emolga's ear perk up. And it comes swooping in, and it lands perfectly in Iris's lap. And Ash is like, trust me when I say this. That Pokemon really likes you, Iris. And Iris is like, you think? And everybody's kind of like, yeah. And Iris is like, oh, I know what I got to do. And she holds out a Pokeball and just holds it out. And it just goes in and it gets caught.
See, Bianca, when a Pokemon likes you, you don't have to battle it.
Yeah. So her whole thing about, oh, you got to battle it first is complete BS.
And
so
Iris celebrates that she has now caught Emolga, and we go straight from that to that's the end of the episode. Literally.
So we get a little bit of narration, but you know.
But outside of that, that is this week's episode. How did you enjoy it, Doug?
Well, it ain't no 4.5.
No. I'm comfortable giving this myself about a maybe 2.5 for this episode. I'm comfortable giving it that. What would you give it?
I mean, this might be a little strange. I'm confident in saying 3.
Okay.
Because I enjoy like Bianca's whole shtick.
Oh, that she needed to catch this Pokemon.
Yeah, like she was driven, and then I liked the interaction between Emolga and Axew, and the Swolbats were pretty cool. Some of the Pokemon encounters in the forest were cool. And this was just a baseline episode, but we did get one of them catching a Pokemon, so that does get some points on the back end.
There you go. So, okay, well, I guess it's Pokemon card time. And Doug, I gave you a break last week. This one is somewhat of a different energy as well, but it's not the same one as last week. But it is an off-the-wall energy. What energy am I about to look at?
I'm going to take a swing and say ice.
It is dragon. So it's a dragon energy. And then we have a Dweeble evolution card, which is called Crustle, a trainer's Moon and Sun badge, a trainer toy catcher. I have a Psyduck, an Eevee, a Cutify, a Pikachu, an Applin. My reverse holo is a Talonflame, and then my rare is a full art Garbodor VMAX card. So yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes, a 2 for 2 this week, everybody. So that's it. That was my card. Do you have anything else to add this week, Doug, before we sign off into the sunset?
Oh, we had a curtain back a little bit. We had a decent record session. We had a couple good episodes. This was good episode this week. I really enjoyed this, couple hour adventure here. So yeah.
All right. Well, then go ahead and say goodbye, Doug.
Bye, Doug.
And this is Wrestling Chris G telling all of you, I will see you again next week for another fantastic episode. Have a good night, everybody.